Watch him closely. He's 28 years old. He's wearing a yellow t-shirt, and he's carrying a small suitcase toward a departure gate. To anyone else in this Bulgarian airport terminal, he looks like exactly what he is, a tourist, heading home after a beach holiday. Then, in the space of a few seconds, everything changes. He starts running. Not jogging, running. He leaves his suitcase on the floor. He doesn't look back for it. He bursts through the terminal doors, sprints across a parking lot, and claws his way over an 8-foot fence. And then he's gone. Into a field. Into a forest. Into nothing. His name was Lars Mittank. That moment, captured on a Bulgarian airport security camera on the 8th of July, 2014, is the last confirmed sighting of him. No body. No trail. No explanation that anyone has ever been able to prove. What made an ordinary man flee an airport in blind panic, and what happened to him after the camera lost him? This is everything we actually know. Lars Mittank was born in Berlin in February 1986 and grew up in Itzehoe, a small town in northern Germany. By all accounts, his life was unremarkable in the best sense of the word. He worked at a power plant. He had a girlfriend and a close circle of friends. When his father suffered a stroke, Lars began spending his evenings at his parents' house, helping out. People who knew him describe him the same way: normal, reliable, close to his family. In the summer of 2014, Lars and 5 friends booked a trip to Bulgaria, a package holiday at the Golden Sands resort near the city of Varna, on the Black Sea coast. It was the first time in his life he had left Germany. For most of the week, nothing about the trip stood out. His friend Paul Roman later described it simply: they relaxed on the beach, swam, played football, went out at night. Lars was in a good mood. Another friend noticed he wasn't eating much, just small portions, soup, a light salad, but nobody thought much of it. It was a holiday like 1,000 others. Then came the final 2 days. On the 6th of July, the night before the group was due to fly home, Lars and his friends went out to a bar in town. At some point in the evening, an argument broke out, not a serious one, on the surface. Lars supported the football club Werder Bremen. A group of other German tourists at the bar supported their rivals, Bayern Munich. Words were exchanged. Afterward, Lars split off from his friends outside a restaurant. He told them he'd catch up later. He didn't. The following morning, he returned to the resort in bad shape. He told his friends he'd been attacked, beaten by 4 men. Accounts of exactly who those men were differ. Some of his friends believed they were hired by the group from the bar, others believed the fight was with the group itself. Either way, the injuries were real. Lars had a hurt jaw and a ruptured eardrum. A doctor examined him and advised against flying, given the ear injury. He was prescribed an antibiotic, a 500 mg course of a drug called cefprozil. His friends offered to stay behind with him. Lars told them not to. He insisted he'd be fine, and that they should stick to the original plan and fly home as scheduled, on the 7th of July. They did. Lars checked out of the resort at the same time his friends left, but instead of going to the airport, he checked into a different place, the Hotel Color, a budget hotel close to Varna Airport. He was alone, in a foreign country, for the first time in his life, nursing an injury, a day away from his own flight home. That's when things started to change. We don't know what Lars Mittank was thinking during his final hours at the Hotel Color. Nobody does. What we have is a small set of documented facts, hotel security footage, and 2 phone calls to his mother, and they paint an unsettling picture. According to his mother, Sandra Mittank, Lars called her while he was alone at the hotel. Speaking in a whisper, he told her that people were trying to kill him, or rob him. The accounts vary slightly on the exact wording. He asked her to cancel his credit cards. He told her he was hiding. The hotel's own CCTV cameras recorded him that night, pacing the hallways, looking out of windows, stepping in and out of the elevator, as if watching for someone. At around 1 in the morning, he left the hotel. He came back roughly an hour later. What he did during that hour has never been established. No footage of it exists. No witness has come forward. In the morning, he called his mother again. This time, he told her that whoever was after him was getting closer. It's important to be precise about what this evidence does and doesn't tell us. It confirms that Lars believed, or said he believed, that he was in danger. It does not tell us whether that belief was accurate. There is no confirmed evidence that anyone was, in fact, pursuing him. There's also no evidence disproving it. That gap, between what Lars said and what can be verified, sits at the center of this entire case. On the morning of the 8th of July, 2014, Lars texted his mother that he'd arrived at the airport. He was hoping to catch his flight home. Before he could board, though, he needed medical clearance, standard procedure, given his ear injury. He was seen by the airport's on-duty physician, a doctor named Kosta Kostov. According to Kostov, Lars was nervous from the start of the consultation. He later described his behavior as nervous and erratic. Kostov examined him and told him he was fit to fly. But Lars didn't leave. Instead, he stayed in the office, asking questions about the antibiotic he'd been prescribed, questions Kostov found hard to explain, especially since, as Kostov would later say, Lars had never actually filled that prescription or taken the medication at all. While they were talking, a construction worker walked into the office. The airport was undergoing renovation work at the time, and by all accounts, the worker's presence was routine, nothing more than maintenance staff going about their job. Lars reacted as if it were anything but routine. Kostov says he began to tremble. Then he shouted, the words are on record, reported by Kostov himself, I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here. And then he ran. He left everything behind in that office, his wallet, his phone, his passport, his suitcase. Every object that tied him to his identity, left on the floor of a doctor's office in an airport he would never leave through the front door. Security cameras picked him up in the corridor, moving fast, and then breaking into a full sprint once he hit the terminal doors. Outside, he crossed the parking lot, climbed over an 8-foot fence, and ran into an open meadow bordering a forest. What happened after Lars Mittank crossed that fence is, to this day, completely unknown. Bulgarian search teams combed the wooded area around the airport for days, using dogs and, in later searches, drones. The terrain there is a mix of dense forest, coastline, old bunkers, and caves, difficult ground to search thoroughly, and easy ground to disappear into. No body was found. No clothing. No phone signal. His phone, remember, was left behind in the doctor's office, so there was nothing to trace. No trail of any kind. Lars's family didn't wait passively. His mother, unwilling to accept that the police investigation had reached a dead end, hired a private investigator, Andreas Gudig, who checked hospital admission records across the region for any patient treated without identification. Nothing matched. In the years since, there have been scattered reported sightings, a truck driver who believed he saw Lars hitchhiking near Varna about a year after the disappearance. In 2019, a German truck driver who picked up a hitchhiker between Dresden and a town in Brandenburg, and who later became convinced, after learning about the case, that the man resembled an older, bearded version of Lars. None of these sightings have ever been confirmed. His mother maintains a website dedicated to finding him. She has said publicly that she believes he may still be alive, possibly, she has suggested, with no memory of who he is. More than a decade later, Lars Joachim Mittank remains an open missing persons case with the German federal police. He has never been found. There is no confirmed explanation for what happened to Lars Mittank, not for his behavior in his final days, and not for his disappearance itself. What exists instead is a set of competing theories, each with some evidence behind it, and each with real problems. The first is a medical or psychological crisis. Lars's mother and several Bulgarian and German doctors have pointed to the antibiotic he was prescribed, cefprozil, a cephalosporin-class drug that, in rare cases, has been linked in medical literature to psychotic side effects, including hallucinations and paranoia. It's a tidy explanation for the fear, the whispered phone calls, the pacing. The problem is direct. According to Dr. Kostov, Lars never filled that prescription. He wasn't taking the drug. If Kostov is right, the antibiotic theory loses its foundation entirely. A broader, related theory, an undiagnosed mental health crisis unrelated to any medication, has also been raised by investigators and journalists covering the case, though Lars's mother has stated he had no prior history of mental illness. The second theory is that Lars genuinely believed, correctly or not, that he was being followed or targeted, possibly by people connected to the bar fight 2 nights earlier. This would explain the paranoia as a rational response to a real threat, not a symptom of anything. The problem here is the opposite one. No evidence has ever surfaced that anyone was, in fact, pursuing him at the airport, or that the fight had any connection to organized retaliation. There is no confirmed explanation for what happened to Lars Mittank, not for his behavior in his final days, and not for his disappearance itself. What exists instead is a set of competing theories, each with some evidence behind it, and each with real problems. The first is a medical or psychological crisis. Lars's mother and several Bulgarian and German doctors have pointed to the antibiotic he was prescribed, cefprozil, a cephalosporin-class drug that, in rare cases, has been linked in medical literature to psychotic side effects, including hallucinations and paranoia. It's a tidy explanation for the fear, the whispered phone calls, the pacing. The problem is direct. According to Dr. Kostov, Lars never filled that prescription. He wasn't taking the drug. If Kostov is right, the antibiotic theory loses its foundation entirely. A broader, related theory, an undiagnosed mental health crisis unrelated to any medication, has also been raised by investigators and journalists covering the case, though Lars's mother has stated he had no prior history of mental illness. The second theory is that Lars genuinely believed, correctly or not, that he was being followed or targeted, possibly by people connected to the bar fight 2 nights earlier. This would explain the paranoia as a rational response to a real threat, not a symptom of anything. The problem here is the opposite one. No evidence has ever surfaced that anyone was, in fact, pursuing him at the airport, or that the fight had any connection to organized retaliation. As of the most recent reliable reporting, the case remains formally open and unsolved. German federal police still list Lars Mittank as missing. No remains have ever been recovered. No confirmed sighting has ever surfaced since that morning in July 2014. The security footage from Varna Airport, the moment Lars sprints out of the terminal and vaults that fence, has been viewed tens of millions of times online, enough that he has been described in press coverage as one of the most watched missing persons cases in the history of the platform. That attention has generated an enormous amount of public theorizing, but it has not, so far, generated a confirmed answer. His mother continues to search. As far as public record shows, she has never stopped believing he might still be found. Go back to that image. A man in a yellow shirt, sprinting through an airport terminal, leaving behind everything that proved who he was. It's a single, frozen moment of pure panic, and it's also where the story simply stops. No ending. No confirmation. Just a man running toward a tree line, and a family that has spent more than a decade waiting for an answer that has never come. Maybe it was his mind, turning against him. Maybe it was a fear that was more real than anyone has been able to prove. Maybe the forest kept an answer that will never surface. What do you think happened to Lars Mittank? If a case like this deserves more attention, more research, more eyes looking for the truth, consider subscribing, so more stories like his get told.